Hi, I'm Lisa Barnett, and I am an Akashic Record consultant and healer, as well as the founder of Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom. I have been teaching students around the world for many, many years now how to access their own soul guidance in their personal Akashic record. Today, I want to talk about your soul's plan. I know a lot of times we think that life is kind of random. We feel like people have, come here and are challenging us. We have a messed up family. We have, maybe a body that we're not really crazy about. We have so many different things in life that we're not very happy about. We might find that we struggle to make a living. We wonder what our sole purpose is. Most of us humans really, struggle in so many ways. And yet I know that we're waking up. I know that there is a consciousness that is coming right now to the planet and to all of us to help us to remember the truth of who we are as ancient wise souls. What the record keepers always say to me is that your plan is written in your Akashic record. Before you embodied, your soul wrote a plan. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time really going into what that means. So if you imagine that you're an etheric soul and you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to go back to earth. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to grow so my soul has so many gifts to share with other souls, with the people in my life. I am really going to have an amazing time in this life. So we say, okay, what gifts and talents do I want to bring back with me? Who do I want to share my life with? What is my plan? And we literally write a soul plan. I believe we sit down with other souls or meet with other souls. The record keepers are very, very funny because they are the beings of light that are pure source energy. They have never been human. They don't have any judgments. They don't have personalities, honestly. And yet, because they're pure unconditional love and light, they can share that with us, and often it'll show up as humor. So your soul makes a plan with other souls. We write contracts, soul contracts, with these other souls. And we say things like, okay, I'm going back to earth and I want to have a family, right? I'd like to get married or have a significant partner. I think I'd like to have children this time. Who wants to volunteer? And literally you have souls who like stand up and say, okay, I do. I was married to you in another life, but that was a very short life. Because remember, we got the bubonic plague and died really, really quickly. And so let's go back and, have another marriage. Maybe we'll have some children this time. Maybe we'll live long enough to have a family. And that's one soul contract out of maybe a dozen that you write. So different options. We like to have a lot of options, and so we write numerous soul contracts. Because we're very mobile people in our world now, we move around, our families move around. We may choose to move to a different country when we're adults, or maybe our parents did that with us when we're children. So if we wrote one soul contract for a significant partner, the likelihood of ever meeting that person would be very, very slim. I still think it's pretty slim that we're going to meet many of the half a dozen or dozen soul contract partners that we actually write, but we really do. So going back to this idea, imagine that you are a soul planning your trip back to the world, and you're sitting in a big gymnasium, like the high school gym, with those squeaky floors and everything. And all the souls that are there at that moment are coming back to Earth within the next few years, usually, right? So there we are saying, okay, I want to write relationships for significant partners. Who wants to be married to me or be my significant other? And here we have the one person who died in the bubonic plague. Now someone else stands up and they say, you know, we had a lifetime a couple hundred years ago that was really karmic. It was around, you know, learning to be loving and kind and compassionate. And that one didn't work out very well. I never learned that karmic lesson. And so I would like to go back and try it again. Would you be willing to be my significant partner in this lifetime? And you say, yes, maybe we'll give that a try. So now I've got 2 of my maybe dozen significant partners figured out. And we go on, of course, and we write a bunch of other soul contracts with people. Some of them are karmic, some of them are about support. So many of the people that we contract with are support partners. The soul contract we write is to support them unconditionally, and vice versa. They're supposed to support us unconditionally. That means emotionally, physically, financially, all of the above. So it doesn't matter if you're both on a really spiritual path, the other person will understand. It's kind of like saying, I don't have to do exactly what you do, but I understand that brings you joy. And so I support you in that. Right? So that's a very beautiful, unconditional, loving support contract. So we have quite a few of these different types of contracts. And then here we are, we get born, we grow up, we have a relationship. Maybe the first relationship doesn't work out so well. Maybe that's somebody who's in high school or college, and maybe we realize that that person just pushes all my buttons, and vice versa, I push theirs. And so we just end the relationship. We think, okay, this is not a supporting kind of partnership that I would like in my life. And so we end the relationship. That may have been one of your soul contracts, and you figured out that being in a challenging relationship that might be filled with triggers or patterns that, you know, we don't love, or, you know, all of these kinds of things. Like, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to be in a marriage where I yell and fight and argue all the time. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm looking for. Now, there's certainly people out there who find that fun or exciting. Maybe that's part of the way they were raised. So our soul contracts can be very complicated. And we have free will. So let's throw a little free will on top of these soul contracts we've written. So just imagine you get married and your partner's a lovely person, but they have some issues. Maybe they had an abusive parent when they were a child, and so they're very closed down emotionally. And part of your soul contract with them was to help them open their heart, to heal their childhood, and to go forward. But what if that person is not open to that, is not available to do their own work? You can try, and you can go to counseling, you can be kind and loving, compassionate and supportive, but if they're not ready to open their heart and possibly re-experience some of the emotional pain that they had as a child, and they're not ready to do their own personal work, then that soul contract actually becomes null and void. They cannot go through, or they're not willing to go through the process of healing themselves from their childhood trauma so that they can go forward living a heart-centered, open-hearted, compassionate, and loving sort of life. So this may be true, and because of this, you decide that this relationship isn't going to work. You can't support someone who can't support you back, And so you get divorced and on you go. Now, if you looked at that soul contract in your Akashic records, you would see that you held up your end of the contract, but your partner wasn't able to hold up their end of the contract. And that would mean that your contract is done with them, and they will still, of course, need to go forward and learn their lesson, finish that karma, come to the place of soul growth, because that's really what karma is about. As a soul, you think, I'm going to Earth, to this kind of challenging environment, to learn and grow. There is nowhere else like it in all of the galaxies. And that's why we come here. Even though it can be challenging, it can be joyful and glorious. And this planet is spectacular. And, you know, the joy of holding a newborn baby, of falling in love, of watching a sunset or the moon rise. It's amazing. There is nothing like it. And a fabulous meal, just, you know, it can be so glorious here on Earth, as well as it can be cold and dark and, you know, inhospitable in its own way, right? So when we come to Earth and we write our soul's plan, it is filled with glorious moments, with supportive relationships, and with challenging ones. Most of us humans live somewhere around 6 or 7 or 800 lifetimes before we complete all the karmic patterns that we've gotten ourselves wrapped up in. And that literally is how it shows up. It's like we start out, you know, pretty simple, but before we know it, we're creating all of these challenges and all these karmic patterns. And it really looks like we kind of get ourselves stuck in a big metal cage or wire box, because we get programmed, we lose our temper, we storm off, we jump out of relationships, we don't complete and follow through to a place of love and compassion and understanding and forgiveness. It takes us a long, long time, especially with so many of the challenges of Earth, to really learn what we came to learn as humans. And so we have support contracts to help us along the way. Many of us find that relationship which really is about supporting us, and we can really support that person. And hopefully we have some soul contracts with parents who are supportive, but that's a whole nother story, because often our parents are not. I do a lot of readings and work with clients, and often they come to me and they say, you know, I just always feel like I was born into a family of a bunch of aliens, or vice versa. They think they're normal and I'm the alien, right? Have you had that kind of experience, or who have friends who have had that kind of experience? So many of us find that we were not born into our soul family. Your soul family is your original soul group that we travel through the billions and billions of years and galaxies and lifetimes with, in, you know, different sorts of groupings. So sometimes they might be your significant partner or your child or your parent or your best friend, and sometimes not. Sometimes we choose a lifetime where we're really more on our own, and that can have to do with your soul plan, wanting to stand on your own, empower yourself, remember the truth of who you are as a wise soul. Maybe you didn't want to be told what to do in this lifetime. So we set things up in really different ways. And even though we planned it before we came to Earth, once we're here and we're all alone and we have these, you know, challenging parents or siblings, you know, our brothers are bullies, or our you know, mothers are challenged, whether it's mentally or physically or emotionally, or, you know, any or all of those ways. We have alcoholic parents, we have abusive parents, we have narcissistic parents. Sometimes we literally pick a family so that we could be with the grandparent or the aunt and uncle or someone else. Sometimes it's the sibling that we really came to be with more than the mother and the father. So this is really just a little bit about how complicated we are. When we write that soul plan, we may say, I am coming to help to bring balance back between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And I'm going to do that by being a very divine feminine woman in this life. And I'm going to be born into a family that is very challenged to see that. Maybe both of your parents are business people and they run a lot of masculine male type energy. It's all about going and doing and being. Or not being, doing, and doing, I should say. Less about being and meditating and enjoying, right? That's a little more of the feminine way of being, following your heart, taking some time, opening to listen to your soul guidance, whereas a lot of the male energy is very much push, 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 do, go, go, go. And the business world has run for thousands of years on that male model. And right now in history, women are coming back to help the all of humanity rebalance that masculine feminine energy. That's a whole nother video I'll do soon, because it's a big topic about balancing masculine and feminine energy. But really, back more specifically to the soul contracts, we may pick a family based on another soul contract we have, which can be that umbrella contract about balancing masculine feminine energy, about stepping more fully into the power and the truth of who we are as a soul. And so we're picking challenging relationships sometimes to wake us up, to remind us of the truth of who we are, to push us into being self-reliant, because that really is what we chose to do as a divine awake soul before we embodied. And then, of course, we embody and we forget we're no longer awake. We're babies, right? And here we are, these little babies who have to go through the growing up and the challenges of that family, and trying to hold our boundaries, to stay on our path, whatever that might be. But of course, no one's talking about that to us. Or for most of us, no one's talking about that. It's not really until recently. I feel kind of blessed to have been alive way back when, in the 50s and 60s. I was living in California in the 60s as a child, and we had the summer of love, and the 70s were wild here in San Francisco, but it was really about love, love, love. And so my soul made a very interesting plan to be in those sorts of places to help me wake up. And it literally did just that. Not only was I awake at 3 when we were still living in Chicago, I remember really looking at my hands as a little toddler and thinking, oh, I'm trapped in a body again. And I said to my mother, I want to go home. And my mother said, but you are home, dear. And how do you explain as a 3-year-old that you can remember being an etheric soul, just communicating without all these words to the other souls that you're with? That's my first memory, is literally being that etheric soul, communing with 2 other souls, sharing ideas without having to speak, And I know it was literally learning to talk as a little 3-year-old, little toddlers, you know, as we're struggling to communicate whatever it was I was trying to tell mom. As I tried to get her to know what I was saying, I realized, like, this is so hard because I'm in a body, right? This is not what I remember being. I remember being this etheric soul with just the ability to know what the other souls were thinking, to share all of my thoughts, ideas, feelings, pictures with them, maybe with like a ball of energy. Here, this is what I'm thinking. And they would go, oh, I understand completely. Yeah, those were the good old days. Obviously, I still miss that ability, though I try very, very hard to communicate. It's never quite the same as when we're on the etheric planes. So here we are with other souls, learning and growing as we work through the challenges, as we come to maybe consciously understand the soul contracts we wrote. And I think that one of the greatest gifts that we can receive from our own Akashic record is to understand those. I have many clients and students who come to me and say, is my soul contract with my partner over yet? We've been married for 30 years and we have nothing in common anymore. And we can literally go into our Akashic records and ask our record keepers, did they have a soul contract? Did this couple have a soul contract? Is it complete? What were the lessons they wanted to learn? Is there anything left for them to learn or to do before this relationship is complete? And so we can have that assurance, reassurance sometimes. Sometimes it's just the validation that we're really looking for that says, you've learned what you came to learn. You've been the support. You've had the support. You've given the support. And now it's time for you to go on your own ways because that lesson is learned, that contract is done. Or sometimes, as I was talking about a little bit earlier, one person has been doing the supporting, has been giving the love, has been the compassion, has been really doing their side of the contract, and the other person has not been able, ready, or willing to do their own work, to learn whatever it was that they came to learn. And so the contract is complete kind of by default, in a sense. It's like, you're done, off you go, and this person will have to write another contract and learn those lessons, finish that karma at some other time in history, but it isn't with you. So you are free to go your way. And I think that that's something that many people really worry about. They often feel a little bit stuck, like, can I go, or am I stuck waiting until this person dies or wakes up? Although now that they're 60 something, I don't really think they're going to wake up, but you never know. I've seen people wake up at 70 or 80. So never say never about waking up, I have to say. But it's not your place to have to wait for them as long as you've done as much work as you can do. Be the love, be the compassion, be the forgiveness, be the support. And after, many months or years of that, you would ask in your Akashic records, is this soul contract complete? Or what else is there to know or to do so that I can complete it and go on and do more work, right? Because we write many contracts. So there's often another soul contract with a significant partner who is now in alignment or aligned to you and where you are on your soul path, doing your spiritual work, giving your gifts and talents out to the world. And that's really what we all are looking for, I think, in the world, is someone to help support us on our soul path. I certainly know that I couldn't live with someone who couldn't support me doing the work that I do. And I am blessed to have been married now for 29 years to a lovely man who has a very regular, normal kind of job. And yet he loves me unconditionally and completely supports me and is very awake, even in his corporate work and world. So you don't both have to be on a real spiritual path to have a contract. It's really about that soul contract around support. So if you are ever interested in having an Akashic record reading and healing session with me, please check it out on akashicknowing.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, where we will go deeper into talking about some of the other things we write about in our soul plan, such as past life talents and gifts that we've brought to earth. And this is what we often call our soul purpose. So I look forward to talking to you about soul purpose. See you soon. Bye for now.